It was a cold autumn evening when Laura first heard the whispers. Hollow Creek, her new home, was supposed to be a fresh start. After the loss of her father, she needed a change, and the quiet little town nestled between dark forests and misty hills seemed perfect. She rented a small cabin far away from the bustling world and planned to spend her days writing, letting her grief fade into the background. The first few weeks were peaceful. She would wake up to the sound of birds singing and spend her evenings walking along the creek that ran behind her house. The locals were polite but distant, always warning her not to stay out too late, though they never gave her a reason why. But as October deepened, the air grew colder, and a strange presence began to seep into her life. One night, Laura was awakened by a soft, persistent tapping at her window. She hesitated, heart pounding in her chest. The clock on the wall read 3:13 a.m. Peering through the curtains, she saw nothing but the dark silhouette of the trees swaying in the wind. The next night, it happened again, this time accompanied by a faint whisper. It was as if someone was standing just outside her window, whispering her name. "Laura!" She bolted upright, her skin prickling with fear. Grabbing her flashlight, she stepped outside into the biting cold, her breath visible in the moonlight. There was no one there, only the creek's steady murmur, the rustling of leaves, and a distant owl's hoot. Over the following days, the whispers became more frequent, more urgent. They spoke of things she couldn't understand, of shadows and secrets buried beneath the earth. She tried to convince herself it was all in her mind, a product of the isolation and her lingering grief. But the whispers were relentless, haunting her day and night. Determined to find an explanation, Laura began researching the history of Hollow Creek. She visited the town's old library, buried under layers of dust and neglect. There she stumbled upon a collection of faded newspaper clippings from decades ago. The articles spoke of disappearances, of families that had once lived in the area but had mysteriously vanished without a trace. The locals whispered about the forest, about something ancient and malevolent that lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim anyone foolish enough to stray too far into its depths. One name kept appearing: the Hollow Man. According to legend, the Hollow Man was a vengeful spirit, a figure of local folklore that had once been a man driven mad by the loss of his family. He was said to wander the woods, searching for souls to claim, dragging them into the darkness where they would never be found. Laura felt a chill run down her spine. Could it be him? Could the Hollow Man be real? And worse, was he after her? As the days passed, Laura became obsessed. She stopped sleeping, spending her nights pacing the cabin, listening to the whispers. They were growing louder, more insistent, urging her to go to the creek. It was as if something or someone was calling her, pulling her deeper into the mystery. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, Laura could take it no longer. Armed with a flashlight and a desperate need for answers, she followed the whispers to the creek. The forest was eerily silent, the usual sounds of wildlife replaced by an oppressive stillness. The whispers led her to a clearing where the ground was soft and damp, almost as if it had been freshly disturbed. A rotten, earthy smell filled the air, and Laura felt her stomach churn. As she crouched down to inspect the soil, her fingers brushed against something cold and hard. She dug deeper, pulling out a small rusted locket. Inside was a faded photograph of a man and woman, their faces twisted into expressions of terror. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her. She spun around, her flashlight flickering wildly, but there was nothing there, just the darkness and the feeling of being watched. That night, Laura's dreams were filled with horrifying images of a man with hollow, empty eyes, of skeletal hands reaching out to drag her into the earth. She woke up in a cold sweat, gasping for breath. The whispers were louder than ever, deafening now. They no longer came from outside. They were inside her head, filling every corner of her mind with their insidious presence. "Come to me, Laura," they hissed. "I've been waiting for you." Desperate, Laura decided to leave Hollow Creek. She packed her things, ready to escape the nightmare that had consumed her life. But as she reached the front door, she froze. Standing at the edge of the trees was a figure, Tall, gaunt, and dressed in tattered, decaying clothes, his face was a mask of anguish. His hollow eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment Laura knew there was no escape. The hollow man had come for her,